Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to the Storytelling Alchemist show. And we're going to be having some soul talk over the next 45 minutes or so. I have an amazing guest that I met, I guess, probably a couple months ago. We've interacted a few times on social media, and I've seen him speak at a One Percenters Club that was on Clubhouse going on for about 100 days, and that just wrapped up recently. He has a very positive energy and an amazing story, and I know y'all are going to love it. So we're going to be talking about his book, Life on Your Own Terms, Create the Life You Want, Rex Sikes, and I'm going to be bringing him on the line. It looks like he has a beautiful puppy that's standing next to him, and I'm looking forward to. I used to have a Rottweiler that would come up and talk with me when I was on the shows. So.
Have 3.
Oh, do you? Well, welcome to the show, Rex. Thanks for coming.
Oh, well, welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm honored and humbled to be here. You've got a fabulous show, and I enjoy so much being your guest.
Absolutely. So I've looked up a lot of stuff about you, and it looks like you've had an amazingly rich life, I guess is the way to put it, including being in Hollywood in the movies, and being a director, producer, author, speaker, visionary, all of those things. And I thought it was very interesting that you've studied many amazing speakers like Napoleon Hill and many, many others, and had a very strong spiritual upbringing. And then you went through, I guess, what some people would call a dark night of the soul, in your, I guess, mid to late 20s. Somewhere around there, and I thought that was super interesting. That it was similar to a life my 20s going into my 30s, and like I was telling you on the beginning of the show, maybe not my life wasn't as severe as what you went through, and so I thought it was very powerful how you healed. And I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about your beginning and how where you came from and how you basically spent 4 decades of your life living the life that you wanted after that.
Well, I appreciate that. I was born for this. I mean, it's so amazing. At 3 years old, my parents put me in dancing class, and at 4 they put me in, or dancing and acrobatics, and at 4 they put me in acting classes, not with the intention of ever having me have anything to do with it professionally, but just to kind of round me out. I was raised Catholic, and when I was 6 or 7, I wanted to become a priest because I was so intrigued with the kind of pomp and circumstance and majesty of the Mass. I didn't understand any of it, but I just knew that they had some connection with God or whatever, and I wanted in. By 11 or at 7, I was asking my mom to read me books like Napoleon Hill and the Bhagavad Gita and different things, and so I'd sit on her lap and she'd read these books to me. I don't know how much I actually understood, but I was constantly seeking something from a very early age, and by the time I was 11, I started studying hypnosis and practicing hypnosis, and I also did magic and mind reading, and so I was teaching that at like the YMCA classes, and so I've always in some way been a seeker and also somebody who's presented information to other people so that they could use it. And as an actor in Hollywood, I had some success, and then about the time I was 25 at that period, I went skydiving with a castmate from a film I was shooting, and was injured skydiving, and went to a Beverly Hills doctor and said, I need something. I can't sleep. I'm in agony and pain. And he gave me what later turned out to be, I mean, it was when he gave it to me, but what they later discovered was a fatal combination of pills, and it should never have been prescribed together. And I was in his office, in the afternoon. I said, can I take these here? And he said, yeah, sure. He gave me a little cup of water and let me take them. And I got in my car. I don't remember anything after that. My sister's like, you were a completely different person. You terrified me. There was nothing about you that was anything remotely like who you were before. And so the thing that I have never, ever been able to figure out is that I remembered to take the pills. I took them, and it just kept wrecking me worse and worse. A girl that I was very interested in and hoped to marry, or we had plans to marry, broke up with me. Her mom said, something's wrong with this guy. lose them, cut them loose. I mean,
Right.
so I lost my girlfriend. I lost a lot of money. I lost my career. I lost all of my friends. I mean, there was nobody really who stood by me at the time. And ultimately, I ended up nearly comatose. I was discovered nearly comatose, and the pills and everything were removed. And so I went cold turkey. And at that point, I just felt really bad. And at one point, I decided to try and kill myself. And I leaped out of a 2-story window and landed on my head, but it didn't work. I survived, and I wasn't injured. And I ran around to do it again. And I had locked myself out of my own apartment that I jumped out of, so I couldn't repeat it. At which point, my parents who were there, they had come because my sister had called and said something's wrong with my brother. We're trying to decide whether I should be institutionalized, because that's what they did back in those days. And they didn't really want to do it. And I just knew something was horribly wrong, but I didn't know what. I had no idea what had happened to me. I just thought I was going crazy. And so I went cold turkey on the drugs. And then I felt so horrible about all the things that I had lost. I started drinking because I felt so much guilt and so much shame and so much agony. I started drinking, and then people started giving me more drugs. People say, well, you need this, you need that, you need this. And so I went right back into a drug cocktail. And one night, a friend of mine who was a waiter at a restaurant just said, you're going to die after, he recounted. I write about it in the book, so I'm being brief about it, but he said, you're going to die. And at that moment, standing there, in the service area of this restaurant, I was like, I don't want to die. And I guess probably that was the first time I really had thought that in quite some time. So I went home, and I said, I've got to figure out something. And I knew that my background had been in meditation and hypnosis and all these early arts. And so I said, I've got to do something. And I decided to lock myself in an apartment, sit in my reclining chair and affirm and hypnotize myself and do visualization and whatever I could to try and get back on track. And I spent over 6 weeks in that chair. I tell people I did get up to pee and to eat and, things like that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no. And but I didn't really go out of the apartment other than to get groceries if they were necessary. And I just sat in the chair day in and day out with my eyes closed, trying to figure out and assess what went on. And that is where I finally unlocked the key for transformation for me, which I've been teaching for 40 years. So my journey really, has been about 63 years. And I've been helping people by teaching programs and workshops for about 40 of those.
Do you think that one of the things you mentioned in the book is that hardships make us stronger? And you put it in different words, but I think basically how you put it is that people that are, I don't know, I have to go back and read it, but basically you were talking about people that have gone through hard things are not necessarily weak-hearted or weak-minded. I can't, like I mentioned can't remember the exact words, but you were basically making reference to people that have gone through all these hardships, and your hardships help develop you and make you stronger for, the future, I guess is the word.
I live life on my terms now, hence the title of my book. And I'm still improving, and I'm still growing, and I'm still getting better, and there's still challenges today. There's never a moment where there's not challenges. It's like the trees some days are sunny and some days it's stormy, and the plants outside are affected by both. I've had other major catastrophes in my life and major loss. I've lost money, lots of times. I've made it back. I've lost friends, people I've valued, trusted. I've had disastrous, issues that have occurred more than once. But what they've always done is they've thrown me back to the principles and the practices that I live on. And sometimes in the past, I was sidetracked. I would get into this thing, and it would cause me a major distraction. I would kind of forget my practice or my sadhana, and I would begin, even knowing what I know, I would start to go, something's wrong here, and then started to focus on that. And what I've learned since, and even now when there are challenges, the difference is is I'm not derailed by it. I'm not thrown by it. I've gone through it enough times that when they occur, I'm like, thank you. This is cool. Okay. I know there's something for me. There's something for me to learn. There's something for me to release. There's something for me to let go. And that ultimately there's something good that will come from it. And it's just up to me to find the good going through it, not to wait until it's over, and not to complain and whine and blame and accuse while I'm going through it, which is a normal.
We change it from problems to opportunities. We change the verbiage, I guess.
I always say this. I mean, my tagline in my blog and in everything I do is celebrate everything. And so if you consider everything a blessing, then everything truly is a blessing. It's when we consider some things a blessing and other things not that we get into trouble. And people will say, well, you either win or you learn. And I go, if you learn, you have won. It's not an either or kind of situation. Anytime that you go through something, you can pat yourself on the back because you're doing the best you can with the resources that you're aware of. And what challenges tend to do is they tend to kind of cause us to not have programs, not to run with what we try and run with what we know. Okay. And we perpetuate the problem usually because we're doing the same old thing constantly. But a major problem has kind of this leveling effect where if it doesn't break you down, what it does is it helps shape and guide you and have a breakthrough. So I look at it as if everything is good, and I just haven't maybe discovered all the good in it yet, but I know that it's there. And if I go through it with that attitude, then it's awesome. My daughter tattooed on her arm one of my favorite sayings, and that's the kite rises highest against the wind. Your sailboat won't go anywhere if there's not a sail to capture the wind, and the wind has to push against the sail in order for that to happen, and a kite has to have wind in order for the kite to rise. So the stronger the wind, the higher the kite can rise.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it kind of goes into my next question or point that I wanted to bring up.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Kind of thinking into the next point that I wanted to talk about. You talk about getting out of your comfort zone, and one of the things that I found very profound in that, and I think that you kind of address it in a sense that once you say that I know that, then you've immediately shut the mind down.
Right.
And maybe you have known it. And because I started thinking about that and I was like, however, it doesn't mean we can't get better at it. And I think it comes down to the idea of the Greek skeptic that they say when a Greek skeptic will say, once you say that this is it, you've automatically closed your mind off to any other possibilities. Mm. And so I thought it was really profound because, like you mentioned earlier, we do things over and over and over again, and we do, even though we know better, expect different results. and so we have to kind of think outside of the box and try new things in order to grow our perspective and grow our experiences and grow our abundance and live that life on our terms, so to speak. So you talked quite a bit about that, and I thought that was really profound. And I don't know if you want to talk about that just first.
Well, sure. No, the biggest problem that people have is that they think they shouldn't have problems. Number one, that, and the gift of solving a problem is actually another problem, because we are evolving. We're moving forward. The nature of the universe is to expand and to increase. And so we're either expanding, increasing, or we're decreasing. It's like a plant is either growing or it's withering. And so, if we do what we always did, we keep things the same. And what you said, people do things over and over again, but they expect a different result. And that is the definition of insanity, because if you're always doing the same thing, you're going to always get the same stuff back. And yet when people are confronted, that's why problems are an opportunity, because it gives us that opportunity to do something different. Now, we say we know better, but we don't do it. Or if somebody comes into a seminar of mine or a program and they say, oh, I know that, or I heard that, or it's in his book, or I got that. If you go to a Zen master or a meditation guru and the guru tells you something, or the master tells you something, and you've got it, he or she is going to go, no, you really don't, because it's not about the verbal. It's not about the information. It's about the application. It's about getting it in your DNA, not about an intellectual appreciation for it, because we can know what we are to do and then never do it. So the key to changing is first understanding and taking hold of our mindset, so that we think more productively and more positively and more powerfully. Why I said, if you consider everything a blessing, everything is a blessing. We shift from the negative and from focusing on what's wrong to what is potentially right, or what is right, or the good that we can find, or the silver lining, or the gold nuggets, and we put our attention on that, because where we put our attention is where our energy goes. Where we put our attention is those areas where we can either increase or we decrease. So I always do it this way. There's dog crap and there's diamonds. There's dog crap and diamonds, dog crap and diamonds. And you get to choose which you're going to, do. So hopefully you choose the diamonds, not the dog crap. Well, but you'd be surprised how many people, their comfort zone is dog crap, so they never go any further, even though it's dog crap. That's what they're comfortable with. And that's a sad choice for many, but you wake up when you wake up. When you suddenly go, ew, it's dog crap, I think I'm going to change, then you have that opportunity to do that. So awareness really is the key to changing.
Well, that does make a lot of sense, because people will pick, and I've done it myself.
Yeah.
It's like you don't necessarily value yourself, or because, I think some people say frequency, or not that frequency, whatever, but it really is about your thoughts and how you value yourself. And so you don't necessarily value yourself at diamonds, as opposed to, and you're like, well, I've been living in dog crap and it's comfortable here, it's icky, but I can still live there. It's pretty profound what we do to ourselves over and over.
I mean, you're absolutely right. See, the cool part about this is that the ancients knew all this stuff thousands of years ago. They've been telling us this stuff for thousands of years. Like I said, I've been teaching for 40 years. When I started, a lot of the people who are famous presenters today weren't even on the radar. They were nobodies at that time. But the cool part about it is that for every generation, people grow up. That new spokespeople come forth, and new ways of sharing the information come forth. But again, information doesn't change you until it's applied. So I wrote a book, and if you apply the information book, you can transform. You can make massive changes easily. And one of the key points that I do make in the book is you don't have to take massive action to make massive changes. You can take little tiny steps and do little tiny things that bring you great big results by the consistent application of them. So it's learning new habits, essentially new thinking habits, new feeling habits, new behaving habits, new speaking habits. And so I'm fond to say, speak only to bless, heal, inspire, motivate, prosper, uplift, and transform, or transform and uplift. In other words, put a guard before your lips and your mind, so that what you fill your mind with and what comes out of your mouth are blessings, not curses. And then your life changes. And yet most of us aren't used to living that way until we make it a habit. And then we can do anything.
That's interesting, because one of the things that we do as people is we criticize ourselves the most, right?
Yep.
We're constantly like, the mind chatter and the monkey mind is constantly going in and saying, oh, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't have done that. And what were you thinking? And then now those projections go on to other people, and we judge people so that we don't necessarily have to look at ourselves. And I find that super, super interesting. And you talk about, one of the things you talk about in the book too, is that not only do you have to make these small changes and change the habits, but you actually have to do them and apply them, and otherwise things don't change, it's one of those things where it kind of like looks at, the gym or the losing weight is not necessarily going to happen by itself, but you have to, you don't have to like just go in there and run a marathon either. So, and that's one of the things I find interesting.
Well, it's also important to know that it's not doing that is the changing. I mean, in other words, doing, you do need to do, but you need to get the mindset right first. I would say that 98% of it is mindset and 2% is doing. But both are important, but you have to have the right ratio. Most people try and solve their problem by trying to fix things and do things and work harder and change things, and they pay attention to the circumstances. In other words, if they look at their bank account and they feel badly when they look at the balance and go, gee, I don't have enough money for the end of the month here, then they go, well, what can I do? I'll get another job, I'll do this, I'll do that, and they try and figure out how to fix it and what to do, and that's not going to solve it. What you need to do is understand that attitude is everything. It's the number one predictor for success, and it's the number one predictor for success in healing and health, according to Travis Air Force Base. We did a study years ago. So, attitude is that little thing that makes a big difference. And so you have to get your attitude right. You have to get your mindset right and develop the mindset of a champion. I talk a lot about Napoleon Hill, and I love Napoleon Hill. I've been reading him since I was a child. Every single day I read some Napoleon Hill. And there's a guy named Edwin C. Barnes, who you're introduced to in the very first chapter, who wanted to be a partner with Edison. And it said that it started as a wish and it became a burning desire. And in fact, it became a white hot obsession. So he jumped the freight train with no money, went to New Jersey to meet Edison and put him on notice that he was going to be his partner. And as Hill writes, Edison said, there's this bum, this hobo standing in front of me, nothing remarkable about him except the look in his eye. And I'm smart enough to know that when somebody has that look in their eye, something is going on inside them. So I gave him a job as a janitor in my warehouse. Now, he did make him a partner, and you turn the page and it says, for 5 years, Barnes swept the floor and cleaned the place with no outward evidence that he was ever going to be a partner of Thomas Edison. And nobody knew it. Edison didn't know it. But in Barnes' head, Hill says he continued to keep it alive and made it more and more real and more certain to him. So he paid no attention to the outer circumstances, but in his internal fantasy, and by fantasy, I don't mean, I mean by his intention, his purpose, what he wanted. In his fantasy life, in his head, he was a partner for Edison, or with Edison. 5 years later, when Edison's sales team couldn't sell a dictaphone that they had come out with, Barnes said, I'll do it, and the rest is history. He became a partner of Edison because he successfully sold the dictaphone. He retired a very wealthy man in Florida. But this is a key principle. He was certain, number one, he believed he would be a partner of Edison. He never doubted it. And if he did, he changed his mind so that he kept it alive and kept it, fermenting in his head. And he ignored the circumstances that would derail most other people. Other people look at the checkbook, go, I'm not worthy, I don't have money, things suck. He went, I'm wealthy, I'm a partner, this is cool, it doesn't matter if I'm a janitor, I am a partner of Edison. And that's what you have to do. You have to develop the mindset and the attitude of a champion and a winner, and then you feel like a winner. And when you feel like a winner, you start behaving like a winner, and then you're able to notice opportunities that abound around you. And that's why when that opportunity arose, he was ready. He went, boom, I'll do that. And he rose to the occasion, and the rest is history. And this is something you and I and everyone can do, and that's why I write about it in the book and talk about it in seminars and workshops all around the world. I mean, it is something that you and I and everyone can do. All we have to do is begin to do it. And then it's like walking. You just keep taking step after step, and you get better at it.
That's an awesome story. It reminds me of one I just watched recently, and it was a man in Louisiana. You might even remember this story. He was wrongfully accused of a crime when he was about 18 years old, and they put him on trial and put him in prison, and he was in prison until 2019. And he used to, and it's only because of new DNA testing that they that they realized that he was innocent. But he was a singer, and he would sing in prison all the time. He put on concerts and sing all the time when he was working, and he wanted to be on The Voice. And so every time he would watch The Voice, he would see himself in front of Simon. He would see himself in front of whoever the judges, I think Britney Spears and all those other people. And then he ends up being on the show in front of Simon, Britney Spears, I think, I can't remember the other one, on The Voice. And I don't think he won it, but it was I was like, talk about law of attraction. He literally got himself, got out of prison and ended up on the show that he wanted, lived his dreams. And I thought that was absolutely powerful. Absolutely powerful story.
It's a great current relevant example, and I'm glad that you shared that. It is so true. Viktor Frankl was in a concentration camp, came out and wrote, Man's Search for Meaning, by saying, you can imprison me, you can take everything away from me, but you can't take my imagination away from me. There was somebody, and I don't know who it was, who stayed alive inside another concentration camp dreaming of a hamburger. I want a hamburger, and said, that's what I'm going to do when I get out of here, and so he kept himself, alive, going, I am going to get that hamburger, and that's what he did. I think it was Garry Kasparov, I could be wrong, but the chess champion, one of them was in prison, was thrown into like the Russian prison and didn't play chess, but in prison, in his mind, started playing chess and became the world chess champion because that's what he developed inside his head.
Yeah. I used to be a Covey trainer, and I used to do the Viktor Frankl story because Covey talks about it in 7 Habits, and I used to tell that story, and you would just see everybody's, because that was such a new Viktor Frankl. Even though he wrote tons of books, not everybody had known about him even back in the 90s. And you would see tears coming down people's eyes, and then when you would say to them, "Now imagine what you could do with your life, and you have the power to choose your own attitude," like Viktor Frankl did, and it's a very powerful statement because it really starts to make you realize that what we talked about at the beginning of the show, we all have hard times. We all have what some people refer to as a pit moment or bottom moment. You hit rock bottom, and then it's your choice on whether you want to go back up. So,
well, you could argue that Viktor Frankl would never have developed or known or recognized his talent and his ability or his discovery of meaning and his imagination if he hadn't been in the circumstances that he had been in. I mean, this is why problems and challenges come our way, because when you rise to the occasion, you either you buckle, in which case, or you fall, in which case get up and keep going, and do again, or you rise to the occasion and you discover stuff about yourself. Either way, you're going to discover stuff about yourself, but you discover things about yourself that you didn't know, and you move forward and make, in some cases, giant leaps. I lovingly use, A Christmas Carol as an example. Ebenezer Scrooge is this horrible guy all of his life, and then one night, maybe because of indigestion or whatever, he has visits by 3 ghosts, the past and present and future ghosts of Christmas, and he's transformed. And the next day, while it's fiction, but he's transformed the next day into this person of generosity, because he's confronted, things that have terrified him, and or he of regrets. And that's what all problems and difficulty and obstacles and challenges do for us. They get us to look at ourselves in different ways, with the opportunity of transforming ourselves positively. They're not there to break us. They're there to release us and to help us, transcend. We either look at it as a blessing or we don't, and that's typically, it's our judgments. You mentioned self-talk earlier, and people have a habitual way of addressing themselves that they have done, the same way they perpetuated it for as long as they're alive. And you can transform that, and you can make, instead of talking and ragging on yourself and being negative about yourself, you can have an internal voice that goes, "Oh, you're marvelous. You deserve this. You are awesome. You look at, you're just flowing and things are going well." And oh, look, an opportunity. Oh, look, a challenge. It doesn't have to be, you suck, you aren't worth anything, and everything, the kinds of stuff we grew up with. Those are the things. That's the opportunity of letting go of those. I tell you how to do that in the book. I tell you how to do that, all in my courses. It is an opportunity for people to transcend and to become who they are without all the facade, without the illusion of not being enough. I mean, we are incredible people. We're spirits, occupying these bodies for a limited amount of time. It's kind of like you've gone to Hertz or somewhere and you rented a car. You're just here for a little while and you're in this vehicle, and you either rented a Rolls Royce or you rented a one that's not so good. But the point is you get to drive what you get to drive and go where you want to go. And if you realize that you're only occupying this place for a little bit, then you have the opportunity to go, I'm gonna be here because it's fun and it's enjoyable, and I'm gonna make the best out of it and live the life, that as a spirit being, as a divine being as I can, or not, because it's always a choice. So my dog shit or diamonds.
That's gonna be my favorite. I might even quote you that. I don't know if you've noticed I do kind of a daily post. I might even quote you on that one.
You like that?
Because it makes so much sense. I mean, I've found, interestingly enough, people like drastic responses because it really makes them laugh, at themselves, and makes them think. Because the truth is that we all deserve diamonds. I mean, how many times have we seen people in bad relationships, bad jobs, miserable, and they're afraid to take that leap of faith or that one step out of that direction because of fear, and so it's really we've all done it, and so
we are the most amazing species. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, we're supposedly the top of the food chain, and we don't make very good decisions a lot of the time, but we are these amazing creatures, and we share a planet. We share, this gas encased bubble with other species and with plants, and and we're stewards essentially as top of the food chain. We, instead of just being predators looking for what we can consume, we're stewards. But beyond that, we have this brain, this little 3-pound lump of something inside our skull that has the ability to make more neural connections than there are atoms in the universe. So says science. I don't make that claim, and you can find this. I mean, the ability for, the different neural connections, it's just astronomical. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like 10 to the millionth, zeros behind it. It's just amazing. And there aren't that many atoms in the universe, apparently. I don't know who counts those things. So, I don't know how they come to that. But the point is, we have in our head so much power, not just our head, but in our heart and our gut. The ancients knew this, hence the chakra system. There are centers. Now we talk about unified field. We talk about the vagus nerve affecting us. We talk about the gut being the seat of our immune system and intelligence, and that there's literally, if you have a romance problem, you have a heartache. If you're worried about stuff, you have a gut ache. I mean, there's stuff that goes on in the body. It's not just up here. It's just, we are an organism, a complete organism with the ability to do so many incredible things. The subconscious mind is billions and billions and billions of times more powerful than our conscious mind, and it blinks our eyes, and it breathes us, and it circulates our blood, and it changes our cells every 7 years so that we're entirely new bodies every 7 years. And our cells are dying and regenerating. I mean, and we emit light from our cell. I mean, it's just, we're the most amazing thing. And we walk around as if we're just crappy most of the time. And a large part of where I came into my powers after the incident that I described in my book, I really went back into meditation and spiritual practices and just, disciplines, mind disciplines and heart disciplines. And I was lying down. I used to like to lie down and put like tubular bells on and get my head between speakers and just go off and listen to music. But I was practicing gratitude, I've done it for decades now, but I kind of discovered it this way. I was lying down and I realized that I had for 25 years walked the planet, and I've done a lot of damage to my legs in skiing accidents and in gymnastic accidents, ankles and feet, and torn all the tendons and, the whole thing multiple times. And I thought, I've managed to walk on the planet for 25 years. I've never ever thanked my feet or my legs or my body for carrying me on this planet. I mean, some people can't walk. Some people don't have legs or feet, but I do. And I've never, ever appreciated them. And so I started to thank my toes, each one of them. I'm lying there with the stereo going. I'm thinking of my toes and then the joints and the muscle and the sole of my feet and the top of my foot. Everything. I started to go through my whole body, working my way up. And I don't know how many hours I laid there and did this, but I was so amped when the whole thing was over, because I suddenly began to realize every process, every organ that I could think of, every hair follicle, my DNA, my fingernails, my teeth, my gums, just thanking everything that I could digest and eliminate food, that I could reproduce, that I could breathe and circulate air and blood in my being. And it exploded into like this ecstasy of awareness and gratitude of what an amazing body we have. This rental car is nothing cheap. It's incredible. And our brain is so incredible. And yet we act as if we're paupers inside of a crap car and, with nowhere to go. And yet we are really immensely powerful people. So to tap into gratitude and attitude and go, you know what, I may have one life to live. Let's make it fun and delightful and celebrate. And let's live and love and be compassionate and kind and generous and serve others. Because when you help others, you help yourself. It's just an amazing way of transforming yourself. You can focus on, I need more money and I need this house and I want a car and I want a new wardrobe. But the larger you think and the more that you encompass, then the house and the car and the wardrobe all kind of come as Mother Teresa. We think of her as this poor little. She could walk into any president's office, any ruler's office in the entire world. She had immense power while practicing poverty by helping other people, by being compassionate. She was pardon me?
Because of influence.
Yeah.
She had a strong influence, yeah.
I couldn't hear you.
I was just saying she had a very powerful influence.
Oh my God, yeah. But how did she get that influence? By helping other people.
Yeah. Absolutely. You reminded me of a story. Like I've actually done some, not all that, but I started thanking my car for driving me around. I started thanking my body, my toes, and my heart for pumping. But I did the last recession, 2007, 8, whatever. Couldn't get a job to save my life. And then finally one day, I went in and I was going in for a job interview, and the entrance into the building was all marble, like you were going to go into like some castle or something like that. And I don't know what possessed me to say, now entering King Jeremy, like I was going into court. And I was all dressed up in a suit. And my energy was just so supercharged, and the interviewer was just lit up, smiling. And she goes, "You're just a really positive person." And it was funny, like if she would have talked to me like a week beforehand, she would have probably thought, well, it's a very positive person. But I landed the job. And I started doing that over and over and over and again in jobs. And I had mastered the art, even during a recession, to get jobs within like a day or two of where everybody else was struggling. And I thought that was really interesting, and it was powerful because, of course, I had studied law of attraction and universal law for a very, very long time. And I thought, well, it's about the energy that's putting off. It's not that I'm saying a king. I'm declaring the energy that I want to have when I go in the diamond. I'm declaring diamonds as opposed to dog shit. And that was a really, really powerful statement. So what I wanted to ask you real quick as we kind of wrap up the show is any last minute wisdom that you want to leave the audience before we kind of wrap up?
Well, I have two things. One is I want to tell people about my an offer that I have for them if it's okay for me to do that.
Yep, absolutely.
When they get my book from Amazon, I'm giving away as a bonus, if they go to my website right there, they'll see a picture of my book. It's Idea Sounders. It's rexsikes.com. And the book is Life on Your Terms. And they'll see an image of that at the website. They click on that. It will tell them how they can get a $497 bonus training on mastery and how you master skills and how you master your mindset. It's called the Mastery Loop Training. And they just follow the instructions there. Which is essentially very simple. They purchase the book, they come back with their receipt number from Amazon, and they put it in there, and then that gives them access to the training. So I'm giving that training to anyone and everyone who has already purchased the book and who buys the book, from your show or elsewhere. So that's cool, and that's what I want you to have. And it's a great training; you're going to love it. And last minute wisdom is, learn to manage your mindset. It is so much easier. The law of attraction, by the way, you don't do anything for the law of attraction. Everybody has all these things of do this, do that, do this, do that. It's not the activity that gets us what we want. Those are things to develop ourselves so we become the kind of person who can attract and who can manifest things. But those aren't things. Writing and journaling and affirming and all that isn't the stuff that brings it. What brings it is understanding that it's yours already, that you are worth it, you deserve it, and just get out of the way and let it come to you. It already exists. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It's there, it exists. If you say, I'm a millionaire, it's already there, and it exists somewhere. And for you to get it, you just have to get out of the way. All the stuff, like I just said, doing isn't going to bring it. What that's going to do is help you become the person who feels more worthy, so that you connect with it, so that you vibe with it. The other thing is if you want to attract good things in your life and you want to have great opportunities, it's like what you said, King Jeremy. You vibe high, the better your attitude, the better you feel, the more fun you have, the more delight, the greater ease you have in moving through the world, the more wonderful things can happen for you, because you have the right attitude. Again, remember, attitude is the number one predictor for success, but not only success, for health and healing. I mean, that needs to register with a lot of people, because a lot of people who face physical or health challenges need to understand that attitude determines a lot about how they go through it, and how rapidly they can recover, and how easily they can heal. So manage your mindset. Your feelings will follow. The behaviors will follow your mindset and feelings, and you'll get incredible results, so that you can live life on your terms and create your best life ever. And with that, I say, celebrate everything. I'm Rex Sikes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Just a real quick announcement about next week's show. Next week's show, my good friend Todd Medina will be coming on, and he started the Sology Network on Facebook probably about 2013, and we were talking about people that have gone through hardships. Todd was a big executive for Sears. Obviously, in the last recession, Sears went through a lot of changes, and he ended up being homeless for about 3 years on the streets, and worked his way up. Now the man has built this huge network, travels all over the country, has found the woman of his dreams, as married, and they were living in Hawaii, and now are driving in an RV around the country doing these Sology events, and he's living his best life, let's put it that way. So I'm going to be excited about having him on, so come in, check it out next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. As you all know, these will be on demand on the LA Tribune Roku TV network, and Rex also has a show that's on the LA Tribune network as well, and his show broadcasts, I think, on Wednesday?
Tomorrow, Thursday.
Thursday.
At
what time? At what time?
3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, it's available on Roku, and the replays as well.
Perfect. So everybody check out Rex's show. Check out his website. That's not only in the description below, but it's up on the screen as well. Much love, everybody, and thanks for tuning into the show every week.
Before you close, you're awesome. You have a fabulous show. You're a wonderful guy. I so appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much. Much love, everybody.